the passage of time, we have shared your joy at the birth of your children, and proudly we have watched them grow. We've taken care.
This meeting of the Starkville Board of Alderman will now come to order. Please rise for the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance, to be followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, you have before you a copy of the modified written agenda, and before I ask for any revisions, I've got one, which is item 11E1 on page 4, which was a request for approval for a resolution for the lease purchase agreement with Regions Equipment Finance Corporation. After conferring with the city attorney, the electric department manager has asked that that item be removed from the agenda tonight. So please remove that item from the agenda. Now, are there any proposed revisions? Alderman Divis.
Under board business, item C, consideration of authorizing a revised date for Miss Anita Lindsay. Place that on consent.
All right, the proposed revision is to place item 10C, which is the consideration of the authorization for a revised date for Miss Anita Lindsay to hold the Starkville Community Day event on August 13th, 2011 on the consent agenda. Alderman Dumas, that's your proposed revision?
It is.
Is there any objection to that proposed revision? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, please make note of the change. Alderman Dumas, do you have further proposed revisions?
Item D, consideration of approving the time extension for the 16-unit project located at 517 South Montgomery Street. Place that on consent.
All right, Alderman Dumas' proposed revision is to place item 10D on the consent agenda. Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, please make note of the change. Alderman Dumas, do you have further proposed revisions?
Item E, consideration of approval of the mayor, board, and alderman, city clerk attendance in MML. Consent.
All right, Alderman Dumas' proposed revision is to place item 10E, the consideration of the approval of the mayor and board of aldermen attending the MML conference on the consent agenda. Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, please make note of the change. Any further proposed revisions?
Under department business, airport, item 2 to consent.
All right, the proposed revision from Alderman Dumas is to place item 11-2, request for pay request number 1 from the airport on the consent agenda. Alderman Dumas, that's your proposed revision?
Yes.
Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Alderman Carpet?
I don't have an objection, but I want to say why we're going to do this. Both 2 and 3, as being the board liaison to the airport, both 2 and 3 are 98.75% grant matches, with the airport covering the other 1.25%. So just note that they keep attaining these FAA and these MDOT grants at almost 100% or 1% match on both of these. So these are good grants to go out and receive.
Okay, is there any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been placed on the consent agenda. Alderman Dumas, do you have further proposed revisions?
Item 3 under airport to consent.
All right. Alderman Dumas has proposed placing item 3 under airport, request for approval for pay request invoice number 1181101 on the consent agenda. Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been placed on the consent agenda. Alderman Dumas, do you have further proposed revisions?
Under building codes and planning department, item 1 with the addition of the 13 conditions recommended by P&Z to consent.
All right, the proposed revision from Alderman Dumas is to place item 11B1, consideration of the approval of P&Z item number FP 11-04 with the 13 conditions as recommended by staff on the consent agenda. Alderman Dumas, that's your proposed revision?
It is.
Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, please make note that matter's been placed on the consent agenda. Alderman Dumas, do you have further proposed revisions?
Under public service, item 3 with the addition of Stidham Construction as the contractor and $24,750 as the amount to consent.
All right, what was the dollar figure?
$24,700.50.
All right, Alderman Dumas has proposed revising the agenda to place item 11K3 on the consent agenda as the approval to issue a notice to proceed to Stidham Construction, the lowest source of supply bidder, to relocate water lines in preparation for the Louisville Street widening project in an amount not to exceed $24,700.50. Information. Oh, okay. That's the end. Is that the proposed revision?
It is.
Any objection?
Just a question, was Stidham the only bidder for this?
No.
Because I didn't see the others listed on there.
No, that was a low bid. Any objection?
I had a question on that since we just received this. You're saying 24, is there a reason we're going with not the lowest bid? I mean, is the lowest and best? Or?
Well, yeah, let me get to that now.
It says it's the lowest source of supply bidder.
Is the contingency?
Okay, the contingency.
Does it apply to all?
So it's not Stidham.
This is Stidham's video.
So it's not the low bid. No, it needs to have a reason if it's not the low bid.
What, does the contingency apply to all of those, or is it just? I don't know. That's what I'm asking
May I ask you to take this on?
Does it apply to all?
Yeah.
All right, that's an objection, and that's enough for it to go on the regular agenda.
That's a good question.
All right, further proposed
I
revision.
do. I have two more. Under public service, item 4, request approval to purchase materials for the Louisville Street widening water main relocation to consent.
All right, the proposed revision from Alderman Dumas is to place the approval of the purchase of materials for the Louisville Street widening project, water main relocation, from the submitter of the lowest quote in an amount. Who was the lowest quote?
There's not. It's a request to.
Okay. Hold on. The proposed revision is to place the approval to purchase materials for the Louisville Street widening water main relocation project from the submitter of the lowest quote in an amount of less than $50,000 on the consent agenda. Is that the proposed revision?
It is.
All right. Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been placed on the consent agenda.
And then stepping back, engineering and streets, item 2, request approval of low quote for the Gillespie Street sidewalk improvement project, with that contractor being Triangle Maintenance, to consent.
Thank you. All right. What's the item?
Under engineering and streets, which I believe is F2, Gillespie Street sidewalk improvement, with Triangle Maintenance as the contractor.
All right. The proposed revision from Alderman Dumas is to place item 11F2 on the consent agenda, which is a request for an approval of the low quote for the Gillespie Street sidewalk improvement project and authorization to enter into an agreement with Triangle Maintenance. Is that the proposed revision?
Yes.
Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been placed on the consent agenda. Any further proposed revisions?
Mayor, point of clarification.
Yes.
On item number 11B1, when you read that on the consent agenda, you said with conditions as approved by city staff. Those conditions were tweaked in the Planning and Zoning Commission. It needs to be with the conditions recommended by Planning and
By
Zoning.
P&Z.
All right. Alderman Dumas, would you like to
I'll take those in the
propose that
form of-
revision?
Yeah. I'll take
All right.
those.
Alderman Dumas has proposed revising previously revised item 11B1 to read as previously stated, but to state 13 conditions as approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And Alderman Dumas, is that your proposed revision?
It is.
Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter as revised remains on the consent agenda. All right. Are there any further proposed revisions? Alderman Parker.
Under board business, B, consideration of making appointments to fill Starkville Housing Authority. I would propose we move approval of appointing Bo Bell to the term with the Starkville Housing Authority with the term ending 9/5/2013, and Lauren Z. Carpenter to a term ending 9/5 of 2016.
All right, Alderman Parker has proposed revising the agenda to place item 10B, the consideration of making appointments to fill 2 vacancies on the Starkville Housing Authority. Appointments being Bo Bell to fill the term that ends on September 5th, 2013, and Larnsey Carpenter to fill the term that ends on September 5th, 2016, to the Housing Authority. Alderman Parker, is that your proposed revision?
Yes.
Any objection?
Alderman Parker, is it your understanding that neither applicant either lives in the Housing Authority or is directly assisted by the Housing Authority?
That is my understanding.
Is there any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been placed on the consent agenda. Do we have any further proposed revisions? Alderman Parker.
I'd like to, under public appearances, item C, presentation by Frank Jones. That's been placed on consent with no objection, so if it's okay, I'll delete that from the agenda.
All right, Alderman Parker's proposed revision is to delete item 7C, a presentation by Frank Jones, from the agenda. That is a proposed revision to eliminate that item from the agenda. Is there any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been eliminated from the agenda. Any further proposed revisions? Alderman Sistro.
Item under engineering and streets on page 4, item 11F1. I move approval of the 2011 ADA and sidewalk improvement projects prioritized program and authorize them to authorize the city engineer to proceed in an amount not to exceed this year's budget, which was a total of $70,000 between the 2 line items.
Do you want the amount included in?
Yes, please. From those 2 line items. These are,
All right.
and I would like to have the public appearance part of that still, so that people can be aware of where these proposed improvements are going to be made. I don't think it's a very lengthy presentation, and it would be useful to the general public to hear that.
So the proposed revision I've got is to move item 11F1, the request for approval of the 2011 ADA and sidewalk improvement projects prioritized program and authorization to proceed in an amount not to exceed the $75,000 budgeted in the fiscal year 2011 budget.
70,000.
70,000. All right, so that is the same as was read, but the amount not to be exceeded is the $70,000 budgeted in the fiscal year 2011 budget. All right, is there any objection? Any objection?
May I don't feel comfortable voting on that until we at least discuss it or have the presentation.
All right, so with objection, that will remain on the regular agenda. Are there any further proposed revisions?
Without objection, under public appearances, the presentation by Miss Anita Lindsay, unless otherwise needed. I don't know why we would do that if it's on consent as well.
All right, is that a proposed revision?
That is I'd like to remove that.
Proposed revision from Alderman Dumas is to remove item 7A, a presentation from Miss Anita Lindsay, from the agenda. Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been removed from the agenda. Alderman Corey?
No, that was what I was going to
Okay. Any further proposed revisions? Do we have any further proposed revisions? Any further proposed revisions? All right, seeing none, a motion to approve the agenda as revised is in order. Motion has been made by Alderman Corey to approve the agenda as revised. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. And any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. And y'all remember on the voice vote, get the voices up a little bit. That takes us to the consideration of the consent agenda. Is there any objection to the approval of the consent agenda as revised? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, the consent agenda has been approved. And we have no minutes for the meeting tonight, so that will carry us to announcements and comments. And I have a couple of announcements and some employee introductions that I'd like to do. First, I would like to announce that July 4th is approaching, and that means we are approaching our citywide July 4th celebration, which this year will be even more of an event than it is traditionally, and it has become quite an event. We will have all of the traditional fanfare with fireworks and activities for families at the Sportsplex. In addition to that, beginning at 4 o'clock, we will have all of the political speaking you could ever want to listen to. I think every candidate for office, countywide and many statewide candidates will be making an appearance. So that is an event that you won't want to miss. And a reminder for members of the board, statements of economic interest. I talked to the city clerk this afternoon, and she wanted me to remind everybody that you need to get your statements of economic interest into the Ethics Commission by no later than July 1st. And now that is an online-only process, so you need to go to the Ethics Commission website, and then from there it's fairly self-explanatory. I'd now like to introduce the newest employees of the city of Starkville, and we have got quite a crew tonight. So if you could all come forward, I'll introduce you. We are very fortunate to have 6 new firefighters to introduce tonight. And it is my pleasure to first introduce Andrew DeMary. Andrew is a Starkville native and attended Starkville High School and Mississippi State University, graduating with a bachelor's in business administration. Andrew is a certified firefighter and has served as a volunteer firefighter at Central Octibahall for the past 7 years. Andrew also worked as a contract firefighter for the Department of Defense for 3 years. Andrew and his wife Angela are newlyweds and live in Starkville. Please join me in welcoming Andrew. Now I'd like to introduce Jonathan Goodman. Jonathan is a native of Ethelsville, Alabama, and graduated from Pickens Academy in Carrollton, Alabama, and from EMCC with an associate's degree in electrical technology. Jonathan has spent the last year working as an electrician in Aliceville, Alabama. Jonathan is single and enjoys hunting, fishing, and all sports. Please join me in welcoming Jonathan. Now I'd like to introduce my next-door neighbor growing up, Nathan Herndon. Nathan is also a native of Starkville and graduated from Starkville High and Mississippi State University, majoring in landscape contracting and business management. Nathan has also worked as a volunteer firefighter at the Adenton Fire Department. Nathan has spent the last 6 years working in the landscaping business. Nathan and his wife Chrysler have a 1.5-year-old Emma Faye. Nathan enjoys hunting, fishing, and anything in the outdoors. Please join me in welcoming Nathan. Next, let's welcome Alex Loomis. Alex is originally from Tibby and graduated from Oak Hill Academy in West Point and from EMCC. Prior to coming to the city, Alex worked as a tree surgeon with Mossy Oak Land Enhancement Services. Alex is also a certified firefighter. Alex is single and attends First United Methodist Church in West Point. Alex is a very talented baseball player, and in fact, he turned down a Division I baseball scholarship to pursue a career as a firefighter. Please join me in welcoming Alex. Next, let's say welcome back to Kenny Wilson. Kenny was a member of the Starkville Fire Department from 1990 until 2004 and attained the rank of lieutenant before deciding to try a career in construction. Kenny is from Sturgis. He and his wife Lisa attend Friendship Baptist Church. In addition to fishing, Kenny says his hobbies are his children and his grandchildren. Please join me in welcoming Kenny back. Finally, it's my pleasure to introduce Taurus Young. Taurus is a native of Kilmichael and graduated from Montgomery High School. After high school, Taurus came to Mississippi State, where he played football under Sylvester Crum and completed a bachelor's and master's degree in industrial technology. Taurus is single and attends Bethel Baptist Church. And yes, he does drive a Taurus. Please join me in welcoming Taurus. Chief, you got an excellent crew. All right, that concludes my comments for this evening. Do we have any comments from the members of the board? Alderman Dixon.
I've got a comment. or some comments. Follow my last few red comments. I take with great pride the fact that the Oktibbeha County Hospital is in Ward 5. This is truly a landmark for the entire city, and its recent expansion and continued growth is extremely important for all aspects of the city. I also take with great pride the fact that many well-established and successful neighborhoods exist in Ward 5, some of which border the medical district that is expanding or the hospital itself. The recent growth has caused some adverse impacts to those around the hospital, and I'm encouraged by the hospital's willingness to continue working to alleviate these impacts so that their neighbors can continue with the high quality of living that they once experienced. I am troubled, however, by the hospitals moving into their new wing without a certificate of occupancy being issued by the city. A certificate of occupancy is the final assurance that the city has to make sure that all aspects of the building project meet the requirements of the city and has the highest regard for the public's health, safety, and welfare. This issue has since been resolved, but it is imperative that all in the city abide by and respect the same regulations that are required for all projects. We, the city, understand the demands of schedules and construction timelines, but we are here to ensure that all projects are of the best interest for all in the city of Starkville, and overstepping the bounds of regulation cannot be tolerated. Since this administration took office, a citywide review of development-related ordinances and processes has been undertaken in an effort to create a development framework that is efficient, effective, and in not only helping development occur, but to do so in a framework that is steeped in quality. Much has been done, there's much yet to do, and at the end of the day, the process has to be respected by all. Because together, we can help Starkville reach the potential that we all see that it has. I've reduced these to writing and given a copy to the Deputy City Clerk.
Do we have any further comments by the members of the board? Do we have any further comments by the members of the board?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to be recognized.
You may.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, other colleagues on this board, staff, press, members of the public, it is with great privilege, pleasure, and honor that I take these moments of personal privilege to recognize one who is very deserving of recognition. This is one of our employees who is our longest serving full-time employee for the city of Starkville. This is an employee with the Starkville Fire Department who was born and raised in Grenada, Mississippi. This employee moved to Starkville in March of 1974, was employed as police officer with the Starkville Police Department and also as volunteer firefighter. This employee transferred to the Starkville Fire Department in April of 1975, has held numerous positions with the Starkville Fire Department, not only as a firefighter, but also as 911 director and fire investigator. This very capable and competent person began his firefighter career as the youngest volunteer with the Grenada Fire Department, aged 15. This employee is the youngest member ever of the Mississippi Firefighters Association. This employee was elected in 1986 as the East Central Vice President of the Mississippi Firefighters Association and presently holds rank of Senior Sergeant, driver of Ladder 1 at Station 1 in the city of Starkville. This employee was just recently elected captain of the Mabon Volunteer Fire Department and also is a member of the Matheson Volunteer Fire Department for 24 years. This employee has served very faithfully, diligently, loyally, and untiringly. And this employee has given his life to the fire department and to the city of Starkville. And Mayor, this employee is none other than Mr. James Michael Collins, who is also known as Mike Collins, and it is my understanding that Mr. Collins will retire from the Starkville Fire Department on the 29th day of June of 2011, and he will have served 37 years and 2 months. And I did get it confirmed, Mr. Mayor, by our city clerk that Mr. Mike Collins is our longest serving full-time employee. Mr. Mayor, I think with that being said, will you take a picture with him and let's all give him a round of applause.
truly a rare experience in the city that we have an employee, not only with such longevity, but also somebody that's done the city is proud of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do we have any further comments by the members of the board? Any further comments by the members of the board? Any further comments? Seeing none, we'll move to citizen comments. At this time, any citizen wishing to make comments this evening may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Good evening to the mayor and board. My name is Alvin Turner, Ward 7. Would like to recognize our vice mayor, Sam Citron, and Alderman Vaughn.
Good evening, Alvin. Thank you.
I also would like to thank everyone that was with me on June the 14th when I had a grandma seat. Want to thank the redhead lady. I can't think of her name, but thank her for assisting us in that episode. I thank Lynn for calling the ambulance, and thank everyone else for helping me get through that, and the mayor and all, and get my memory back together. Been having that ever since I was 6 years old, and sometimes on a full moon they just drop in. Citizen comment. We want to thank MDOT for the signs and stuff that they have did around town. Hoping that now we could drive better, and we hope that the cell phone drivers, combing hair drivers, alcoholics, give us a break. We would like to, if we could, see the Christmas lights back up. It have gotten to the NACP ear about the school board situation. We hoping that we can get better with that, because we don't want no one to snap at school board meeting, and that is some concerns of ourselves.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Do we have any further citizen comments? Okay. There's no real protocol. I usually just do it first come, first serve.
Hi, I'm Pat Scott, or Pat's Joy, or Pat Scott from Mascot, Tennessee. I'm here to tell you how proud I am to be in Starkville. I have lived in many places in this nation. I have visited many places in this world, and Starkville is by far and away the best I have ever been in. With that said, I was raised with the 4-H motto of make the better best, and Mother said never let it rest till the good is better and the better's best. So I want to become a politician, and I'm starting with the bike rally Saturday. You have it in your colorful agenda. I want you at my bike rally with all your wheels and all your friends to help the nation know that we're not going to let Jan Morgan case rest. Praise the Lord, she is alive. She is out of ICU as of yesterday. She is off the respirator as of yesterday, and they are reducing the painkillers to see if she does have brain function. Continue your prayers, please, for Jan Morgan, and come out and support her and the family on Saturday. Appreciate you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Matee.
Of course, I'm Rafiq Mateen. I just want to have just two basic comments. Why isn't a street sign on McKee Street to identify it when McKee Avenue ends at the junction of Lindbergh Boulevard? What happened was I called 911 for an emergency. The ambulance passed by the street. They didn't know where it was. Some people go way over to McKee Park looking for McKee Street. That's utterly ridiculous. Just a simple sign would solve that problem. The second notice I have, I walk down North Jackson a lot of times, coming from the hospital and Starkville Manor and all those places. On North Jackson, near the old demolished store, and the house that has recently been demolished have the speed sign of 30 miles per hour been erected yet? I wonder. Those people drive there at like 90 come 11. They just drive fast. And the last time I passed there, the street was lying, the sign was lying on the road, on the side of the road. Has it been erected yet? I don't know. But those are my two basic comments, nothing else.
Thank you, Mr. Matting.
Yes, sir.
Do we have any further citizen comments? Just one per evening.
I object to the removal of the ADA public, whatever it is, to let me know more about what's going on. Okay, I take that away, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening to
Ms.
the
Isaac.
board, also to the mayor and to my alder and
Good
Ward
evening.
C.
Good
So I
evening.
would just like to say, I've come to you, a lot of times for different things, but this time I'm talking about the loud music that is going on. Not only in my neighborhood, which is on Natchez Street, the loud music at nighttime is so it rattles your bed. I don't know what we can do about this, but the loud noises, we need probably some signs or something up, to do that. And I would ask that if each and every one of you, would just go around and see the noise at night, late at night. And we also have a three-way stop over on coming up from Natchez. We have a three-way stop there. And you might as well tell everybody to go on. They never stop at those, never stop at that turn point. They just keep it going. It's like the signs are there, but maybe we could take them down and put up a jukebox and maybe they'll see the noise and people do it a little bit more. But I'm asking each and every one of you to please look at that. And I know you have something tonight about the police department. And I would just like to say about the complex that you're going to build. If you're going to build it, please build it so it can be accessible, to everybody. And I understand we're just going through the phrase of it, but I would like you to take this in consideration. Please don't have me over on Natchez Street, can't get no help because the traffic is too heavy to get over. So think about the overflow, and I guarantee you, everything will go all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Isaac. Do we have any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Seeing none, we'll move to public appearances, and we have just one public appearance remaining tonight, and that is from Dr. Beth.
We've worked with the Commission on Disabilities to combine the $20,000 allotted to the Transportation Committee and the $50,000 allotted to the Commission on Disabilities to make sure that our projects were working together instead of building sort of sporadically around town. So out of that $70,000, it's my understanding the board has already approved the $13,475 in ADA curb cuts. So that left us $56,625 to come up with some projects. And so we looked at a few, and I'm going to let Tiffany talk to you about the university, but we looked at the Gillespie Street would be a phase 3, so that would complete that sidewalk out into Russell, and it'll be a complete since we didn't have enough money last year to get as far as we wanted. So that was one of the things we looked at. We looked at North Montgomery roadway striping to stripe in a bike lane so it would connect into Pat Station and bring it down into the city, into the university bike lane. And then we looked at a two-phased approach to University Drive ADA improvements.
The reason being is because I walked it with Edward Kemp, and found that the improvements that they recommended were good ones. However, there were some sloping problems so significant that it would be really difficult to traverse. And as the Commission on Disability representative, we're really the goal is, of course, to be as close to ADA accessibility as possible. So I feel that these improvements are closer to 100% ADA accessibility versus the ones that were proposed. That's why we decided to go ahead and make a phase 2 for that university sidewalk.
So we have improvements for both parking places, correct, along University, and then accessibility to make that entire corridor that connects into campus safe for people to transverse without falling into the street. The second part that we looked at were the two gas stations, Pure Gas and Coconut Gas Station, that have the constant driveways the entire length. And after the two presentations by the form-based code group, and then the charrette group, encouraging us to put in some trees, some beautification, but mostly shade to keep people cool in the summer, and then as well as to provide a barrier from the street and the sidewalk for safety reasons. And so that was sort of the last sort of effort on University. So that being said, our total came up to about $159,000, which we clearly don't have. But we did want you to know everything that we looked at and why we looked at them. And so our understanding is we will proceed. Those are our priority projects until we run out of money, and then we'll work on them again next year. And in the meantime, we'll continue to work on a longer-term plan, more of a 5-year plan for sidewalks, so we have a better idea where the needs are and what those will look like.
Well, I'll start the questions and comments. Just say that I had the opportunity to attend your last meeting and was very impressed with the thoroughness that you discussed your presentation tonight, and also impressed with the collaboration of 2 volunteer committees. You know, collaboration is never easy, but to see volunteer organizations within the city collaborating with each other is heartening. So I commend you for doing that. Questions or comments from members of the board? Alderman Carter.
I guess the only reason I pulled it off was just I'd heard those figures before, and I was a little confused. It's not a request for more money. That's what I was asking. It was just kind of why, as you were coming in front of us tonight, just an explanation of projects ongoing.
Yeah, no, it's not. It wasn't a request for more money. It's just that, I mean, we don't know how much. We just look at the map, identify areas of highest need, both from an ADA standpoint and then to complete some sidewalk segments that we have in town. So we prioritize them that way, and then Mr. Kemp did a great job of giving us pricing for all of it, and so we just wanted to know what we looked at and why.
Okay. I'm gonna say too, when you talk about this, like I'm just using coconuts, but when you say like a visual barrier, you're talking about how it slopes off both sides, both to the west and to the south on University, and is that? I'm just asking, is that like putting up a row of trees for safety issues, or is?
Yeah, it's essentially just, you know, since it's one continuous driveway, the sidewalk's not separated in any way from the driveway. So, do you want to talk about your Coca-Cola store?
Yeah, so there was when I walked actually down University Drive with Kemp, the day that I walked with him, there was actually a Coca-Cola truck parked in the middle of the sidewalk. So you have to get over on the actual bike lane in order to traverse the sidewalk, and that is just a safety hazard for anybody.
How do y'all feel about, while we're on the subject, I got you here, like Reed Road, the enforcement, you know, of automobiles. Have y'all been bringing up people parking on sidewalks there and other places in town and constructing traffic? Because Reed Road, I hear a lot about people parking.
You know, I hear a lot about that too. I've never seen it, but if I did see it, we would just call 311, and they're usually pretty good about getting it out there. And, but we actually, if it's a question of cars on the sidewalk, we have more trouble on University because the driveways are so small and the trucks are so long that they stick out into the sidewalk. And, I mean, they've pulled up as far as they can. They just have a long truck, and it sticks out to the sidewalk, and you have to go in to the bike lane to go around.
And I was asking that to say maybe there was other ways to combat that issue. You know, I don't know other ways to do it, but that was the only one road I really hear a lot from my constituents, you know, ways to get around that, and people constructing sidewalks and blocking that, you know, the access.
I understand that when the sidewalk on Reed Road first opened, that was more of a problem, but I think the police department has done a good job of maybe educating people about parking in that area. So it may still be occurring, but I don't think with near the frequency that it did early on.
It's not occurring now, but it was because it's still under construction. But it's not that way now.
So how does that affect Coconut's actual customer parking? Does that limit their parking a good bit, or?
No, well, I don't know, and we have, I sent an email out to the Beautification Committee, the Historic Preservation Committee, because Nash is a historic area, and we're so over budget that, you know, I mean, I almost feel like throwing this on the floor and just saying, let's not talk about it, but you know, it was really just us trying to listen to the comments that have been made by the 2 groups that came in and talked about, so we understood it as a safety hazard. They said one of the things you would like to do, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's 3 feet is a standard barrier width between a street and a sidewalk anyway, correct? So we were just trying to make it fall into compliance with what we would be building now. And if we're going to go in and do all these improvements, just go ahead and do the improvement now. But it certainly, if we get to that next year and we start working on it, then we would do it in conjunction with them. It's not an idea to hurt their business as much as it was just to put us in, make it safer, and then work with some of the comments that we'd heard from the two groups that were here.
Well, and truthfully, it's and I spoke out against that. It's very not against it, for it. It's a complex problem we have all over town. When you look at Highway 182, when you look at Louisville Street we're dealing with right now, these are major safety issues when you have these complete lack of definitions, especially at an intersection where people can come in and out of a business or a home or whatever it may be at any point they would like. And so I'm of the opinion, and I think I'll echo what Parker said. I think the fact that we have the Transportation Committee, we have the Commission of Disability, who are taking both their little pile of beans and putting their piles of beans together to make something as the fact that we're talking about University becoming ADA standard all the way from Jackson Street to University is a significant deal, because it's woefully inadequate at standard condition. And I think it's only beneficial for us to look at all those areas, especially at Coconuts and other areas that have significant transportation or safety issues, to do it right. And I think, frankly, it only enhances Coconuts. And we're just picking on Coconuts, but I think that helps everywhere, from not only the aesthetic of the business itself, the accessibility from the ADA side, as well as the safety from the transportation side of the road itself. So I think it's the least we can do.
And I'd like to echo that in doing the Louisville Street widening project, this was an issue because there are so many entry points into Louisville from parking lots along that strip that's going to be worked on. The engineer that's working on the project met with individual business owners, and for the most part, business owners were very open to the idea of narrowing openings, decreasing the number of openings, just improving the general flow of pedestrian traffic as well as vehicular traffic there on Louisville. I was very pleased with the business community's support.
Do we have any further questions or comments?
And I would like to say, too, that I appreciate y'all's efforts in helping connect our community, because a lot of what you're doing here is connecting. You're connecting downtown and the university. The North Montgomery striping project will do a lot to connect North Jackson and the new roads that are being built in that area too. It also ties in, although you wanted to throw the piece of paper on the floor, it ties in nicely as we're talking about capital budgets and planning for budgets for future periods. So it's very beneficial to us to have this information, even if we can't fund it all right this minute. So, thank you.
Further questions or comments? Any further questions or comments by the members of the board? Any further questions or comments? Seeing none. Thank you. Nope.
Thank you.
All right. There are no public hearings scheduled tonight, so that will take us to mayor's business. And I would like to start the report from the Municipal Complex Committee on where we are. And, of course, as has been widely known, a priority since the outset of this term for me and this board has been remedying the current failing state of our municipal facilities for our police force, for our municipal courts, and for our city hall staff. About 18 months ago, the board, in its initial retreat, laid out a process for how we would proceed in finding a remedy for the problem at hand. And that process was intended from the very outset to be one that was citizen-driven and citizen-inclusive. And I think to this point, that process has certainly met that objective. we are through the first two legs of the process and now are ready for the final stages. The first two legs of the process consisted of the board appointing from amongst its membership a board committee that would work along with a citizens committee to provide a recommendation as to how the city could meet its facilities needs. And as you are aware, last month that citizens committee came forward and made its recommendations as to a concept and that would allow the city to meet its needs. The next step in the process that the board laid out a year and a half ago is for a preliminary concept to be introduced to a larger public audience. And in consultation with the members of the committee and working with consultants that need to be available to make presentations, I would like for us to have a town hall meeting on July 12th to present an initial concept for meeting our municipal facility needs. I have spoken with Gary Schaefer, who has acted as the architect consultant on the project. I've also spoken with Demery Grubbs, who was here earlier tonight and is acting as a financing consultant to the city on capital improvement projects. Both of them can be in attendance for a town hall forum. And at this time, I think we are prepared, and it would be in order to make a presentation as to how the recommendation that the Citizens Committee offered can be accomplished. That would include construction timelines and budgets for a potential project, as well as financing strategies. And then after public input on that initial concept has been received, the final stage of the process that the board laid out in its initial strategic plan is for a final concept to be presented to the public. And I think if a town hall held on July 12th goes reasonably well, we could be in position to do that in short order. But the recommendation I would make is to hold a town hall meeting in this courtroom at 6 o'clock on July 12th. And we do know that the essential parties that would need to be there for the presentation are available at that time. Discussion. Alderman Carter.
Mayor, I think that's an excellent idea, and I think I'll support that. And probably one of the issues I'm looking at is just the dissemination of information. I guess it's going to be taped, right? This is going to be taped on the 6th. It's going to be.
Yeah, we can certainly have it videoed.
Well, with an issue like this, I mean, maybe my only recommendation is that we do some kind of newspaper report on financing strategies, whatever we come up with at the end of that meeting, and kind of an input of the collaboration of the community as a whole, because you know, that would be one of the most, probably the most important thing of the next couple of months, is just to keep the information flowing freely and dispel the rumors before they start and everything else. But maybe other alternative methods for getting the information out besides just the news, besides the TV. But,
yeah, information will be disseminated widely, first about the town hall, and I certainly hope there is very active public participation in the town hall meeting, because that is a wonderful opportunity for the public to engage in this process at an early stage. And then obviously as we move further towards operationalizing a project, public communication will be at a premium.
You think we can put some of this information July the 13th online, or just facts and findings, or as it goes along?
I think we certainly can. further discussion.
Will Gary lead the discussion on the 12th?
Here's what I'm thinking. Another essential party is Roy Ruby, who chaired the Citizens Committee. I think there certainly needs to be a report from the Citizens Committee. Gary needs to explain both the construction logistics, including potential timelines on achieving the goals of the Citizen Committee, and then also the budget. But beyond just the project budget, there is the financing side of it and potential financing options for the project that need to be discussed by Demery, because that's Demery's specialty. And so I would think that the three of them will speak, and I'll also probably make a few comments as well. And certainly a major purpose of the town hall meeting would be to get public feedback. So there would be time for interaction with members of the public that attend the meeting. But I guess as much as anything else, I'm looking for the blessing of the board to go forward in this manner, because from the outset, what I've tried to do from the mayor's office is to facilitate the process along the timeline and through the stages that the board set out. So this, to me, and in talking to the members of the Municipal Complex Committee, I think they agree as well, seems to be a logical way to meet the next step in the process, which is to present a preliminary concept to the public.
You need that in the form of a motion?
I'd like it in a motion, but I guess we don't have to have it in one.
Well, I move approval that we hold a town hall for the municipal complex, July the 12th, 6 p.m. here in City Hall.
Alderman Dumas has made a motion to hold a town hall meeting for the municipal complex discussion to be held at 6 p.m. on July 12th, 2011 in the City Hall courtroom. Alderman Dumas, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Carter. Alderman Dumas, do you wish to speak on merit?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. All right. The next matter on the agenda is a report from the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee from Alderman Parker. Alderman Parker?
Yes, sir. I will do two things. I'll give a brief report from the Solid Waste Committee, and then I'd like to go over, if I could, the consideration of calling for a public hearing to amend the sanitation ordinance, just go over the details of what we're changing in that. The Solid Waste Committee and Recycling Committee met last week. We as a committee went through the sanitation ordinance, and the committee as a whole approved it, unanimously approved of all the changes that are made. We're planning on having on October the 22nd at Westside Park. We're planning on having our second annual recycling day, and there'll be more details to come. We haven't. Waste Management has agreed to sponsor the event to help us with food and activities. So there'll be more details to come. But October the 22nd at Westside Park, we'll be having recycling day at the park. As far as our recycling, our contract with Waste Management under the recycling contract, we're actually 3 months in to the contract, and we're under budget of what they had proposed. So the budget there is looking very well. As far as the ordinance itself, we have to change the ordinance for a couple of reasons. Well, the main reason we had to change the ordinance is because we've begun to pick up our own rubbish. I'll go through the things. What you'll see in the form is we basically changed the name. As we changed the name from solid waste to solid waste and recycling, we had to change the name in the ordinance itself. So throughout the documents, you'll see that name change. We made a change on limbs under the rubbish. We're going from, we were picking up 6-inch limbs. We've increased that to 8-inch. We've also increased it from 7 feet long to 10 feet long. We've added a statement that no construction debris, even from do-it-yourself projects, will be picked up through our rubbish department or through the solid waste department. However, if you have carpet, anything that will fit inside the black bag, carpet waste, pad, that if it can fit inside the black bag that the city supplies, then it will be picked up. We're also resetting the fine schedule. Right now, the fine schedule that we have for residents never resets. So if you are, and this has become a major issue with some of the landlords where they have different tenants every year. Once they get to, I think, the third fine, it's set at $100, I think, and that never, so they have new tenants that may have been their first, it may be their first fine that they get, but it is at the maximum fine because that never resets. So we're resetting that to an annual fine schedule, so each January it will reset. Now I'm going to have the city attorney look in section 2 on some of the wording before the first public hearing. I just want to make sure that it's not nowhere in the ordinance are we supplying or requiring individual cans or carts. This has nothing to do with carts. And I want to make sure our wording is clear in that no resident is going to be required to have a cart. They are still allowed to put their own carts out, and we will pick up your trash out of the cart itself. That's basically the few changes that we made in the ordinance itself. So I'd be glad to answer any questions from the board before we'll schedule our first public hearing for our next board meeting.
Questions or comments for Alderman Parker?
I've got a few. In here, a couple of times in the definitions, you call out stumps, logs, tree trunks.
Right.
And I see under commercial waste that it says not to exceed 8 inches in diameter, no more than 120 inches. It may be helpful in the definition part of this to include what stumps, they seem logical, but I'm always asked, how big of something can I put in there? And so is a log different than a tree trunk, and does that just mean anything bigger than 8 inches? Seems simple enough, but it may be helpful in the definition to do that. And I know we've got the public hearing. I don't want to get lost on that, but the fine part of it resets, but it still goes back to the property owner, not the tenant. Is that correct?
It's either or. It is and or. So I'm sure ultimately the property owner will be responsible.
Okay.
The way it's written.
So when we say and or, that distinction is made by.
I think it says and or back here in the. It says.
Section what?
Section 14. It says the existence of delinquent sanitation accounts will be handled in accordance with state law. Well, responsibility of payment of charges is section 15. It says the owner and or occupant of each residential collection unit shall be responsible for the payment of the fees and deposits.
Yeah, we know. Chris, what are your thoughts on that?
I'll look at that.
Okay.
I read the ordinance today, and I've got some thoughts that I'm going to redline to you. So the draft that comes before the public hearing has all of our feedback on it. But I'll look at that section particularly.
Okay.
Any further questions or comments for Alderman Parker?
One of the section 11, section 9Q, which is the carpet. The only thing kind of red flag me is you want people to no longer, you do construction, you roll carpet up, put it on the road, and it's easier to tote and grab like that. You want them to put that carpet into a bag?
The way it's written in here now is it has to fit in the bag for you to be able to put anything at the road to be picked up.
I think carpet might be one of the only exceptions. If you want somebody to cut rolls of carpet up and put it in a bag and then put it on the road.
I don't want either.
No, I'm just saying that may be one thing. It wouldn't be feasible to cut carpet
Sure.
into 2-foot sections to put it in a garbage bag where it's easier for, just roll carpet up. I understand your concept. If it's any kind of commercial job, then the fines, the contractor should pay for the removal of the carpet. But if it's a residential somebody, is that what, as it's written now, you're saying that somebody would take a roll of carpet and cut it up as they take it up and then put it in the bag?
Well, if it would fit in the way it's written now, if it would fit in the bag, you could put it at the road. I don't know of a lot of homeowners that can install their own carpet, so it would ultimately fall to the responsibility of the carpet installer to get rid of the carpet that he took out, probably. But it's just my opinion.
Okay.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none. That will take us, if I am not mistaken, all the way to the request for approval of the 2011 ADA and sidewalk improvement project. And this was the matter that we heard a public presentation on before. Mr. Kemp is here if you have any questions for him. Discussion. Alderman Sistro.
If there are no questions, then I will move approval of the 2011 ADA and sidewalk improvement projects as prioritized program and authorize the city engineer to proceed in an amount not to exceed the current year budget.
Alderman Sistrunk has made a motion to approve of the 2011 ADA and sidewalk improvement project prioritized program and authorization to proceed in an amount not to exceed the $70,000. Did you say $70,000? $70,000 in the current year's budget. Alderman Sistrunk, is that your motion?
I think so.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Corey. Alderman Sistrunk, do you wish to speak on merits? Any discussion? And
I've got
Alderman Dibble.
I want to make a plea here, and this is North Montgomery. When will Pat Station be completed, Edward? Next couple of months. Soon. As you see on here, I just want to say this while this is fresh on everybody's mind. North Montgomery roadway striping is a part of this for $17,900. And obviously, with the three above it being higher priority and us only having $70,000, we can't make it to that point. But I do hope that we can. When will the striping crews be here?
For the overlays?
The overlays?
Probably late July.
So July, August timeframe, we've got a possibility there for roadway striping crews to be here. There's an economy of scale, obviously, with movement and other things they're here. So I hope that we can find a way potentially to look at North Montgomery, because my concern is Pat Station is built. It will be a nice road. It will have a nice sidewalk, but it will go to nowhere.
This year.
This year.
Did you say go now?
This year. How long's that road?
Pat Station is about a little over half a mile.
About a half mile. But I hope that this could be a way to help further connect it, because we've got North Montgomery stripe. Well, we've got a lot of Montgomery stripe with bike lanes. Obviously, we've done some good work on Hospital Road. There's a network building there, and this is a $17,000 program that we could stripe in and immediately have extremely wide bike paths, especially on North Montgomery, north of Crites, with very good access, and so and helping to establish a good network. And yes, I did say nowhere. So that's my plea. And I don't have the answer to that, but I'm just saying I wanted to throw that out there because it would be a good project. But these are good programs.
Well, how much of, Edward, if there's a $70,000 budget, and once you get to University Drive ADA improvements phase 1, will you do as much of
Probably
that?
about 2/3 of phase
So you'll
1.
do as much as you can. Okay.
Yeah, and these projects are in prioritized order.
Right, right.
So we're just going to go down the list and do as much as we can with the budget that we have this year.
And I'm not advocating change priority. I'm really not. But it's what's the width of the Pat Station sidewalk? Is it an 8 foot? So it's a multi-use. So it's bike and ped. Okay.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll now move into a vote on Alderman Sistrunk's motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passed. And that carries us to the request for approval to issue a notice to proceed. And the city attorney has been beefing up on this one in the meeting, so hopefully he has an answer as to whether the Stidham bid is the lowest bid.
With some additional facts, Doug, is the contingency built into the other bids? Do you know?
Built in?
In other words, the numbers that we see from By the Yard and the Dirt Company, does that number encapsulate the contingency?
No. Well, I mean, you know, when you see the total project unit price bid, like Stidham, it's $22,455, then the contingency is 10% below the line.
Is that
on
something we add to it? Is that
Pardon me?
something we're adding to it?
Yeah, well, if we run into some problem or issue down there?
I know, but did they list that amount in their bid?
No. That's something that's kind of standard when you go into.
So we see the base bids. Every base bid would then have the addition of the contingency bid.
Well, that's something we usually add because, you know, we're going to run into something in a project like this.
So we would do the same for By the Yard, or the other two.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So By the Yard's
He did
bid is actually $26,000.
Right.
I mean,
So it's low.
And if I carried it across, it would have been 10% of that.
That's the
kind
question.
of a mute point, you know. to take
So the
down
lowest and
from.
best bid is Stidham Construction.
That's right.
Alderman Dumas, do you have a motion?
Yes. Move approval for
Alderman-
Stidham Construction with $24,700.
Alderman Dumas has made a motion to approve to issue a notice to proceed to Stidham Construction, the lowest source of supply bidder, to relocate water lines in preparation for the Louisville Street widening project in an amount not to exceed $24,700.50. Alderman Dumas, that's your motion.
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Corey.
Yes.
Alderman Dumas, do you wish to speak on the merit?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. And that will exhaust the open session portion of the agenda. We do have potential matters for executive session. Do I hear a motion to move into a closed session to determine whether there is a need for executive session?
So moved.
Motion has been moved by Alderman Dumas and seconded by Alderman Perkins. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. We'll give everyone a moment to clear the room as we prepare for a closed session.